back when I was obese. I think, is that better? I feel like that's better. Hello, my name's Nick. I used to be fat, now I want to get jacked. Today I want to talk about something a little bit less serious than last video. Last video I did a whole diatribe about body dysmorphia and how much I don't like the way I look sometimes. But I think this time I want to do something a little bit more lighthearted, something that's like maybe a little bit funny, but it's just the minor embarrassments that came with being obese. Everyone knows like the big ones. I think you don't feel attractive, or you feel like it's hard to find clothes that fit, like that kind of shit. But I would like to just talk about like the little things, and I hope you'll come along with me, and maybe you'll find a little bit of humor in it. And if not, like the video and skip. It's fine. Okay, so I think there's like a good like some like chunks that fit together pretty well. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is let's talk about my feet. Everyone who has seen my first video knows that I have chronic pain in my feet. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the little things that have to do with my feet. So for the first one, the big one, I think that sort of spawned this idea of a video was I I started getting pedicures with my parents back when I moved back in with them in 2017 after I had moved out for college and sort of stayed in that college town for a little bit. And we would go once a month, every single month, to get pedicures. And then from 2017 to 2020, that's what I did. And then 2020 happens, and guess what? COVID. We could not go outside. And so I had to clip my own toenails and also paint my own toenails, and I just didn't do that anymore during COVID. But I had to clip my own toenails, and I could not clip my own toenails adequately. I could sort of reach over my big stomach and sort of get my giant legs to bend that way, but I really struggled to clip my toenails. And I think even like when I would get to like the pinky toes, like I couldn't quite reach, and it would just be like kind of lopsided just because I couldn't get the angle right. So that's a weird, embarrassing thing. But luckily, most of the time that I was obese, I was getting pedicures, and so I didn't even have to fucking worry about that. But what I did worry about when I went to get pedicures was I could not hold my legs up in the chair for them to work on my feet. If you go to the nail salon and you see someone who is obese, this is not to call someone who's obese out. I just noticed that it's a thing that we all did and do. Uh, you will see them. Let's see. You'll see them put their hands like in between their leg and the side of their chair to keep their legs up because they do not have the leg strength to keep their legs upright. Let's see if I can't drop this down and show you. So like this, you'll see them like legs up, and they have their hands wedged in here because it's the only way they can keep their feet straight. That was another thing when I was obese, and when I started like losing weight and also strength training, because part of my therapy was a lot of leg exercises, and once my legs got stronger, I noticed like, oh shit, like I don't have to do that anymore. And that was just something that like I was embarrassed about. I think because I did it every time, like I just stopped being cognizant of the embarrassment of it. But like it is quite embarrassing that like you can't even hold the weight of your leg up with your leg muscles. That's insane. That's crazy. It's crazy how many wake up calls are going to be in this that are just like, obviously they're like minor, and so they're not the rock bottom that led me to lose weight, but it's just like, man, like I had so many issues. And also when it comes to feet, I could tie my shoes. It was a struggle, and so I kind of refused to do it a lot of times, and I would just like slip my shoes on and off. I would ruin the backs of my shoes all the time because I was always sliding my feet in. And when I lost weight, I actually did start like I don't ever take my shoes off without untying them anymore. But I think maybe that's just like a point of pride, the fact that like I can bend over and do it. Like I can even like from standing like bend over, untie my shoes, and like just slip my shoes off. And I think that that's a point of pride that I just do it. And also it ruins my shoes a little bit less. And the other thing that ruins shoes, being obese. You wear through the bottom of your shoes really, really, really quickly. I think I probably went through shoes like I couldn't afford to like have multiple pairs of shoes all the time, and so I would end up wearing the same pair of shoes every day, maybe the same two pair of shoes, but like those shoes would last 3 months. Whether it was like in high school when I was buying like Nikes, or when I was buying like Skechers, you know, like the memory foam cushion or whatever, like 3 months. That's all I would get out of a pair of shoes, and that's crazy. These pair of shoes that I have right now is Brooks, and I've had it for maybe 6 months, and they're still going strong. They're only ripped because the tops of them would catch on shit at work, and like the fabric would rip. But other than that, like they're perfectly fine. Since I just talked about shoes, let's keep on with clothing. One of the things, I'll insert a picture here if I can find one, a good example of it. But I used to, when I was obese, I used to wear a white undershirt every single time I wore any clothing outside. Because one thing about fat people is they tend to be very sweaty. I was absolutely no exception to that. And so my deodorant would, I would get such sweaty armpits, my deodorant would sweat, and it would completely ruin a t-shirt. Like the deodorant would soak into the fabric and would not wash out. And so I had to wear undershirts all the time. So that way the undershirts would get ruined and basically just like stay ruined. No matter how many times you washed it, they would, like that deodorant does not come out. And so I would try to preserve my t-shirts by wearing another t-shirt underneath, which of course just made you hotter because you have another layer of clothing on. To continue on with clothing, everyone knows chub rub, right? I wore, and I still do this actually. This is still an issue that I have because I have thick thighs. Um, I have worn through the middle section of so many pairs of jeans, so many pairs of pants, so many even like pairs of shorts, like the school uniform shorts. Like you I would wear through, not even on the seam, just like the fabric itself would get thinner, 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 and then all of a sudden you can see my thighs through it. Embarrassing and terrible. Like there was a time period where I was using, they have this like it looks like a deodorant stick, but it's for runners, and it's to prevent chafing. And I used to have to put that in between my legs and on my ass crack because like I would start like fucking bleeding. Awful, awful. I mean, I'm hairy, so like the body hair would also create friction in those places. Uh and I would get like chafed and like start fucking bleeding. And that's honestly, that's, I can't believe that didn't make this list. I can't believe that I like blocked that shit from my memory. All right, let's see what, let's talk about like maybe anxiety, like just like everyday anxieties. Anxiety that like I couldn't fit in a chair. I don't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure like I used to touch both arms of this chair when I first got it. This chair is that old, but uh I used to be very conscious of the fact that like a chair could break underneath me. I have in fact broken a sofa before because I sat down too fast in it. Again, weak legs. You know, you can't hold your body up enough to not just kind of like plop into every single chair that you sit in. Uh, Sitting in booths at restaurants, if that table didn't move, there was a chance I didn't fit. There were some chairs that you sit in and you were just like very conscious of every little squeak that happens because you're just like, oh my god, one, is this chair gonna break? And two, with every single squeak, every other person who hears it is like, oh my god, that fat ass is gonna break this fucking chair. And you know, people are probably more charitable than that. People are probably nicer than that in their heads. But whenever you were the person who, the fat ass in question, like you do not think people are that kind. Because you think you were not that kind to yourself. At least I wasn't. On the track of being able to fit into things, I have not been on a roller coaster since I believe middle school, maybe. Or like even an amusement park ride since middle school, maybe early high school, because I was afraid that I was too fat to fit on those things. I thought that I was gonna throw the weight distribution off, or that the thing wouldn't click in place, or that it would click in place and then I would just like slip out regardless because the G forces on my mass would be greater than that could restrain me. So I was terrified, absolutely terrified of going to an amusement park again. And so I haven't been to an amusement park in over a decade. That I would love to. I actually, it sort of gives me heart palpitations thinking about it. One, because of the you know, the vestigial anxiety of it, but also because I'm just like, I'm 32 years old, man. Like, can my heart take that? I'm sure it can. That's just dumb nerves talking, but it does make me nervous to think about trying to get on a roller coaster again and doing some loop de loops and shit. Ooh, this is a good one. This is a good one. Uh, have you ever been anxious to sit next to a person because you think you're gonna squish the life out of them? Yeah, I have. Airplanes. I didn't fly much when I was obese. Thank fucking God, because I couldn't imagine having to spend a lot of money on a plane ticket and then also be anxious that you're the fat person next to someone and you're crushing the life out of them. But also, like in a car, like I like driving a lot. And but I think I mostly always offered to drive when me and my friends went anywhere because I did not want to sit in the back seat with someone and like squish them. I did not want to be responsible for that trauma. I oh god, I'm so like I tend to be like a people pleasery kind of person, and I tend to be like, oh no, that's fine, like it's okay, I'll accommodate you kind of person. And when you physically cannot do that, like when you are sitting in the back seat of a car and it's supposed to have three seats and you're taking up one and a half of the seats, maybe one and three quarters of the seats, like it is really hard to be charitable to yourself and to the people who are riding with you. And like as nice as your friends might be, like you still thinking to yourself like, oh my god, they hate me, they hate me, they hate me, they hate me, they hate me. You know, if I wasn't obese, I wouldn't have those thoughts. So maybe that's the trade-off, right? Maybe if I had gotten my shit together earlier, if one of these things had been a fucking wake-up call, then I wouldn't have had that kind of anxiety. I wouldn't have had to deal with that. But you live and learn. Did you know that when you're fat, it is harder for people to draw your blood because they can't see your veins? When I was about to get my tonsils taken out, I had to get blood work done, obviously, because they have to check to make sure that you're like viable for this kind of surgery, even if it's like tonsils, like everyone gets that. I remember this one, the nurse. She grabs the needle, she goes into my right arm, pokes for like I want to say a good like 2 or 3 minutes, just like poking around, cannot find a vein to save her life. And I'm good with needles, so like this didn't bother me, but like obviously some people are squeamish. So she takes another needle, this arm, poke. Can I get anything? Finally goes into my hand. I still had it on my fingers then, funny. But she goes into my hand to finally get the blood, and finally she's able to get some out of it. Hand hurts, by the way more than this does. But yeah, she was just like, it took probably like 10 solid minutes, like total time from trying to get it to finally getting the amount of blood that she needed, which is crazy. And I think about that moment all the time because I want to say maybe a year and a half ago, I was getting my blood drawn again, as one does. And obviously, I have lost over 100 pounds since then. And I have been building muscle since then. And so I'm a little bit more vascular than I used to be. And this one nurse was drawing my blood and she literally looked at my arm and like she didn't even get close to it and she was like, ooh, so many options, which is the funniest thing someone could possibly say about that. But I was just like insanely flattered by that because it shouldn't be that hard to find a vein, and yet my adipose tissue got in the way. I got in my own way. I got in their way, honestly. Like I made their job harder. I have broken a bathtub when I was obese. When my parents and I moved into the place that they currently live in now, the the bathtub was like, I'm pretty sure it's like a cast iron tub like normal, but it's got like that plastic uh, cover on it basically that's supposed they adhere to it. And they did not really adhere it all that well whenever it was installed, and so there was like a little piece where like you could feel there was like a gap. And one day that gap, they got a crack in it, and then my tub was like leaking all the time. So we had to get that like repaired. But I imagine that if I had not been so big, that probably would not have happened. It could have. Who knows? Like that gap was still there. Maybe someone who was 100 pounds would still have broken it. Whatever. Um, I do not think that someone who was 100 pounds would have broke the toilet seat that I broke in that same bathroom, because that also happened, and that is probably the most embarrassing, probably the most embarrassing thing on this list, maybe, uh, because like, what do you mean that something that sits flat on the toilet broke? It was plastic, of course. We ended up getting a wood one to replace it, and the wood ones they hold up, but like it should not have to come to that, right? Those plastic toilet seats are cheap and they work for most people. I broke a toilet seat, fuck, and who knows if that's the only one, or if that's just the one I remember because it was most recent. Every single time that I brushed my teeth when I was bigger, this is just a minor embarrassment, right? This is not something that happened, but I used to like rest my belly on the counter. I don't know. It was comforting to feel the coldness on my counter from the marble. I used to also do that. I think when I washed dishes, like basically anytime I was next to a counter, my belly was on the counter, which is uh, psychotic. I think that's a good word. Psychotic. Why was I putting my body parts on the counter that did not need to be on the counter? I think it was because like then I could get my hips closer, and so I was closer to the sink. But yeah, I like I and you know I had a tummy tuck, so I don't have that belly anymore. But it's like I think even after the tummy tuck, like I would sometimes fucking do it. No, not after before the tummy tuck, I should say. After when I had just loose skin, like I would still sometimes fucking do it just because it was like habit. But it's like how fucking weird. What kind of psychotic nonsense is that? Uh and then the other thing that you do whenever you've just showered, you've gone to the bathroom, you've brushed your teeth, time to go to bed. Every mattress that I owned when I was obese, I would say maybe between 3 and 6 months after I got it, it would have a like permanent indent of my body in there because it was not meant to hold 350 pounds of person. It was meant to maybe hold 350 pounds of two people, right? But all that weight on like, especially when you're laying down, like it tends to all be your torso weight pushing down. And so there was always an indent in my mattresses that after just like a few months, like that's just where I slept. Like no matter how I tossed and turned, I would just like gravity would just pull me back into that little divot. It's kind of like in Psycho. Maybe I'll put a picture in here. In Psycho, when they go into the mom's old bedroom and there's just an imprint of her in the sofa in the bed, because she didn't move after she had died for so long. Uh, I just think like, yeah, and since I've lost weight, like that has not been an issue at all in my mattress. I used to snore. Uh, I guess any snoring is like kind of bad. Maybe there's some like adorable snorers out there. I was not one of them. I was obese, and so my snoring was frightening or loud or scary or any other synonyms for those words. Uh, I do not snore anymore. Yay, yay! Thank God. That's especially whenever you're not. Let's just leave it at that. Yay! I don't snore. Yay! The last one, it also has to do with physical fitness, but whenever you are obese for so long, especially whenever you hold all your weight in your like gut, which is what I did. I didn't hold my weight in my ass, unfortunately. I was notoriously flat assed for someone who weighed 350 pounds, but all my weight was like in my gut and like my chest, and so it pulls you forward whenever you're walking around, whenever you're doing anything, you're being pulled forward, and so I had forward and a hump, and it has taken a lot of work to get rid of that hump. Luckily, my back is like pretty flat now back here, and my posture has improved quite a bit. But yeah, that's another, like, you hate to see yourself in photos whenever you're obese, if you don't love the way you look, which I did not. But it's especially jarring whenever you see yourself like I think I have a photo of me like holding a big ass fucking margarita, and you can see that like I'm like this in the photo because like this is all just like here, and it's not traps. It's just like a dowager's hump right there. If you have experience being obese, Please put in the comments below what minor embarrassments you could think of. I scoured Reddit, and these were like all the ones that I saw that were not, well, I should say most of these are ones I thought of, but there was a couple that I got from Reddit. And I'm just curious to see if there's like anything else that I missed, anything else that I did not experience when I was obese. Obviously, I'm not a woman, and so there's a little bit of a difference in regards to how I experience the world versus how an obese woman would experience the world. But thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next video for who knows what. Bye.